Today on Talking Cars, talking about the WRX STi today. New generation, 2014, launched last year. Big news is not much has changed from the old one in terms of the engine. Still output of 221 kilowatts, 407 Newton meters. And it might sound familiar to you, which if it does, it's probably because the engine is exactly the same as the previous generation, which Subaru has come under quite a bit of fire for. But to say that the new Subaru WRX STi is anything like the old one would be a huge understatement. The new car is better in almost every single way except the engine. They claim it to be more fuel efficient. Not what you would say when you're sitting with a 12 litre per 100 kilometer fuel consumption bill, but I suppose there's not much they can do about that when they're using an engine as potent as this. Differences from the old model to the new model is new chassis, which has been stiffened up substantially, and the biggest talking point actually in terms of the handling aspect is the fact that this now has brake assisted torque vectoring, which means that any understeer that was present in the last one is no longer present in either this or the WRX, which also features the system. Suspension on this, you might notice the camera shaking a bit, is rather stiff. Subaru have said that for the first time ever they're putting a lot more effort into punting the WRX as a road car, whereas the WRX STi is purely for the track. It handles better on the track, it drives better on the track, and that's what it's set up for. It's stiff, but it's not jarring. It's really, actually, the harder you push it, the more comfortable it gets, and at no point is it ever backbraking. Different from the Mercedes-Benz CLA 45, which unfortunately is very, very hard, and believe me, you feel it. This though, it's stiff, but it's more communicative than harsh. Combined with the hydraulic steering, it's a very communicative machine. You can drive over a £5 coin, I'll be able to tell you the year that it was minted in. It's hydraulic steering in this. They've added a much quicker rack than previously. The guys at STi have also decided that they need to go with a hydraulic steering rack on this in order to make it more communicative as a driver's car. The WRX uses a new electronic system, which, although great, does unfortunately lack a bit of feel. You really have to push it hard before you can actually find out what's going on with the front wheels through the steering wheel, whereas this is pinpoint accurate. It's super sharp, super quick, and it just feels incredible. First thing, sit in the car, hands on the wheel, and you feel every little dimple in the road. The car tells you exactly what it's doing at every single moment in time. It just feels absolutely incredible. I don't care what any of the manufacturers do. Porsche can make the best electric system they want, but there is absolutely no replacement for a good hydraulic steering setup. Characteristic to the old engine, the EJ25, is unfortunately the boost comes in a bit late, especially in comparison to the likes of the Golf R and new BMW motors, where your torque is available pretty much right after pull off, just above idle. But it adds a bit of character to the car. Drive it around, you actually have to sort of wait for it. The anticipation builds, and as the torque hits just above 3,000 RPM, the engine comes into boost, then you get the bulk of your torque at 4,000 RPM. The anticipation sort of arrives and it kicks you in the chest, and it feels actually incredible. It's been lost along the way with turbocharged cars. Back in the 80s and early 90s, there was quite a bit of turbocharging going on for performance aspects in racing. Subaru was one of those teams doing that, especially with the WRC, and they made a spectacle of it being turbocharged. It was a case of your car was turbocharged, you knew it. There were all sorts of pops and bangs and cracks and big whoosh from the turbo as it came into boost, and it just sounded incredible. But of late they try and make cars sound normally aspirated when they're not. You know, there's just something that's been lost from there, and they spend so much time trying to engineer these cars not to sound turbocharged that they actually lose some of the soul that you do get from a car being turboed. Whereas this, you wait for it, it's got that character which really adds something to the car. Character is something missing in a lot of cars, but the STi has it in bucket loads. The previous generations were prone to quite a bit of understeer, unfortunately one of the side effects of all-wheel drive, but in this recent generation with the new torque vectoring system, it really nips it in the bud. And then combined with the hydraulic steering system, the quick rack, combined with the new suspension that they've got in place, it handles absolutely incredibly. It's one of the party tricks of the STi not found on the WRX is the driver controlled center differential system, which allows you to stiffen up the control on the center differential to define how much torque gets sent to the rear of the vehicle. Set it to minus on the control and it allows more torque to be sent to the rear much quicker, and it makes for more impressive handling characteristics. The back is far freer and it just turns into a lot more agile. best thing about this car is the pedal placement is absolutely spot on. The WRX is perfect pedal placement, but this brake pedal is just slightly firmer, just have a little bit more push in it, but it's spaced absolutely perfectly for heel and toe downshifts. Amount of speed you can carry into corners and the way you can use the engine braking to slow you down ahead of them, absolutely incredible. Very few cars nowadays that actually match the perfection of the pedal placements on this, but you can tell it's being engineered by Subaru Technical International, STi for short. They handle all of Subaru's racing as well as the STi badge vehicles, everything from the chassis through to the engine, the suspension, and it shows. It's really designed by people that know how to drive, people that love driving, and people that love cars. WRX STi sells for quite an expensive price, unfortunately. At the moment it's priced at about 630k odd, which is a little on the expensive side. However, it does come fully loaded with kit. You get the sunroof as standard, as well as cruise control, onboard navigation system, fairly impressive sound system, and of course you get the LED automatic headlamps, reverse camera, and automatic windscreen wipers as well when the rain starts. So 630k, it's a bit expensive, but everything does come standard. However, the most important thing is that it's been engineered to actually be a driver's car compared to the likes of the Mercedes-Benz CLA 45. Far more expensive in terms of what you're actually getting. You pay over 600,000, you get very much bare spec, and thus you get a genuine all-wheel drive system, and the performance of this will just outstrip anything within its power range and beyond. Unfortunately though, because it is designed to be such a driver's car, it is stiff on the road. Suspension is stiff. Unfortunately, the clutch is very heavy, very stiff. If you're going to be sitting in traffic, not really ideal. Unfortunately, it is just too stiff. It's too inclined towards the racetrack and towards sporting driving, which doesn't quite work out on the everyday roads, especially with all the traffic. Other cars might be faster 0 to 100, they might be faster down the quarter mile, they might have launch control and automatic gearboxes, but none of them are as great to drive as tool as this. You get in and it just sucks you into the driving environment. Everything from the hydraulic steering to the Brembo brakes up front, the stiff suspension, the quick steering rack, the rifle action shift. It's a notchy gear shift, but you know what, it's short shift, short throws, and it's just absolutely brilliant. You time your shifts well, and everything just seems to come into sync. Could criticize it, the gears are a bit on the short side on their ratios. 0 to 100 sprint is timed according to Subaru at 4.9 seconds, takes a little bit longer than that, partially due to the fact that you do need a shift into third. Could criticize it for that, but this car isn't about 0 to 100 times. It's the fact that when you actually get onto that twisty bit of road, or when you get onto the racetrack, everything comes together. You can shift gears perfectly, get just the right amount of power coming out of the corner. Because of the all-wheel drive system, especially with the DCCD central differential, you step on the throttle just as you're reaching the apex, and the brakes help on the torque vectoring system, and it just bites, it just kicks down and it goes. Even when you go into a corner a bit too fast, you go in, you downshift nicely, use the engine braking. You go in, you think you're going to be in a bit too fast, you come off the throttle, you don't even need to brake, and the back just swings around gently, a little bit of lift off oversteer. Just absolutely perfect. As far as a driving tool, as far as an experience goes, there's very few cars that can match what this STi does. And of course, with the demise of the likes of the Mitsubishi Evo, which unfortunately the Evo 10 last generation, they've said that they're not going to be building anymore. There's not really any direct competitors to the STi. Sure, you get the Audi S3 sedan, you get the likes of the Golf R, there's the upcoming Ford Focus RS. But even though those are fast, and even though those are well engineered, and they've got big amounts of power, and they try and make them sound loud, and they give you all sorts of cracks and bangs through the exhaust system on upshifts, there's just nothing quite like having a giant bonnet scoop in the front and a giant wing at the back. It's the sort of garish, loud, in your face, really don't give a shit. That just Subaru's got their market cornered now. I mean, Mitsubishi used to be able to do it. They did it with the Evos for many years, but now you can't get it. So they always say it's boy racer, and quite frankly it is, but it puts a smile on your face, it puts a smile on everyone else's face. You go anywhere and this car turns heads, if not for the exhaust noise, just for the fact that it just looks so crazy. Why can't more car manufacturers just be batshit insane? Put spoilers on the back of your car, put bonnet scoops, make it sound loud, give it 4 exhausts, give it that touch of insanity. And manufacturers, please just give your car steering racks that are this quick. Arguably one of the best parts of the handling about this car is the steering rack, because it is such a quick ratio. You don't even need 180 degrees of lock on the steering wheel to make even the tightest of turns. It just it does it. It's almost telepathic in the way that it reads your inputs, slight inputs, and it just responds so much, so acutely. You know, Subaru has upped their game with the interiors. It's not quite German in its standards. There is still the fake carbon fiber trim, but on the whole, the interior is a hell of a lot better than Subarus in the past. The previous generation STi, they sold it at a premium price, but they didn't actually give it a premium fit and finish. It still felt tacky, whereas this, coming in at the same price as the old one, and the quality feels a lot better. It's got soft touch materials everywhere. The seats, even though they're supportive sport seats from the WRX, reclad with the STi stitching, they're not as supportive as they could be if they were bucket seats, but they still feel good. It's good quality. The leather on the steering wheel, new D-shaped steering wheel, feels great, looks great. Overall, the quality of the interior just looks and feels a lot better than any of the generations that have ever come before. Still not quite up to the standards of the likes of Audi, but then again, they never will be. You're not buying this car for the quality of the leather, you're buying it for the way that it drives. This new STi is not going to be bought by everybody. It's not a car that's built for everyone. For those who want a serious driver's car, for those who want to be completely immersed in the driving experience, there's absolutely no better car at the moment on the market. There might be others that offer better fuel consumption. There might be those that are quicker from 0 to 100 and quicker down the quarter-mile straight. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that quite drives the same way this does.